We are Smooth 98.1, your love music, love life station on a Monday morning, a money making Monday morning for those who are still going to work or hitting the streets, going to hustle for this and that. Many people are on holiday right now. If you are out and about, hey, Lord bless your hustle. And of course, you will achieve everything you've set out to achieve. Ayokunmi here on the Smooth Breakfast, taking you into a beautiful Monday morning. And of course, we are getting into the papers at this point in time, 7:30 every single day of the week, Mondays through Fridays. We talk about the stories making the rounds in the different papers, the Punch, the Guardian, Vanguard, Premium Times. We've got it all. And we are about to step in for a brand new week. Welcome along to the journey with us. And by us, I'm not doing this alone. Joining me this Monday morning from the North Pole, I have to add at this point, AB Bozimo is in for analysis. Good morning to you, AB.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning to all our wonderful listeners. And we start obviously on a somber note this morning because we have lost some of our fellow Nigerians.
Mm. Indeed, that is true. I mean, that will be the first story that we will dive into. But before that, just to brighten up your moods, first of all, to let you know how to join us this morning to share your thoughts on the show, you can send your WhatsApp messages on 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 981. You should also, not you can, you should also join us on YouTube to number one, to drop your comments there. And number two, to understand why I said AB is joining us from the North Pole this morning, because his get up, even Santa Claus cannot hold a candle to him. Background on one hand, the outfit on the other hand screams, I am ready for Christmas cheers. So head over to YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos to see exactly what it is that I mean. And if you need a Christmas which granted, AB is your man. That's all I will say on that
Ayo,
front.
you are our inspiration, Ayo.
All right, let's get into the papers this morning and get into the Guardian. As Edie said, it is a somber one as Nigeria has recorded over 70 deaths of people who died in stampedes while scrambling for food and palliatives in different parts of the country. Now, as we know, with an inflation rate of about 34.6%, many Nigerians cannot afford essential items, including food, and they anticipate palliative distribution events coming up. And when these things happen, it gets really, really rowdy, and these are the consequences. The first recorded stampede incident was that happened. It occurred recently at a fun fair organized by former Queen of Ife. It was held at Islamic High School in Ibadan on Wednesday, and then after about 35 bodies were recovered from the scene. The death toll increased to 40 after some victims who were in critical condition in the hospital died. And then 3 days later, no fewer than 20 people who gathered for a rice distribution event died in Okija in Anambra State. And then another stampede was recorded at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Maitama area of the FCT in Abuja when 15 people were trampled to death while struggling for palliatives. AB, this has come out as a very badly choreographed dance. These incidents happen in such a short space of time, all these lives lost. And the common theme is these were events that palliatives were being shared. Walk us through, on one hand, how we got there, and then we can look at what exactly caused this or should have been done to avoid this sort of unfortunate incident.
First of all, we'll talk about the regret we all share for losing people like this at any time, not talk of this particular time. Then we step back quickly and we think of the events and let me call them the good intentions that people had to try and give some people some relief under the current circumstances. It's not all about hunger and all that. That is a real thing. And many of us who are, I would say, relatively privileged may not understand just how desperate things have become. Just earlier this year, I did the funeral of my mother. I know at that time, my sister can confirm with me, a bag of rice was, say, 30 odd thousand. She would have to confirm for me. She was in charge. Now it's 90,000 in less than 1 year. Now, people are thinking, okay, let's give some people some relief. There are some factors. Let's take one of the factors, gragra of people
Mm,
is moved by desperation. Then proper organization, the planning of the places. You see, when you hear that people get trampled to death in something like a school compound, it's not that the school compound didn't have enough space. It is the exits and entrances. There's a constriction, there's a bottleneck, and then there's
right.
this, confused movement in, out, and the people who are crushed in the middle. But I put it to you that there is one thing that we're not looking at that actually leads to a lot of this. It is simply something in our built environment, the lack of a good and reliable address system. During COVID, we saw the stories that in Western capitals and other cities, people were in their homes and they had palliative distributed to them. They were able to stay in one place and the things were brought to them. If people had that confidence that they had addresses that could be reached, they would feel maybe less desperate coming out to come and gather. Secondly, there's a lack of trust. When people hear of these things, they wonder if those who are charged with distributing them will actually come and reach each and every one of them. Then, of course, there is the desperation. Sometimes people plan for 500, 1,000. They get 3,000, 5,000 people coming. And then we need that ultimate thing, crowd control. I dare say we don't have as many people coming to these events as come to a typical day at Disneyland or something. Okay. But there they
Mm,
have made crowd control down to a science. And so we must put those safety measures in place in advance. You need to plan these events and even plan for the unexpected. But long and short of it, we have desperation, we have crowd behavior, we have insufficient advanced planning, and I dare say we have lack of trust in the fact that if I stay at my address, anything will reach me. So we now have 70 plus dead, many more injured, their lives transformed negatively forever.
right.
And I'm hearing the police are pointing fingers at the organizer. Listen, if people were not desperate, they wouldn't go out in these numbers to go and get what they feel they can get. So at the end of the day, this falls straight into the hands of those misleaders who like to masquerade as leaders, who make priorities that don't directly positively affect the people. In another story, we're going to talk about a highway in trillions. We're going to talk about the Nigerian budget that contains thousands of vehicles and all sorts of, um, uh, uh, you know, things for the rich already. But ordinary people are dying. So I think we have a leadership problem where the leaders are completely detached from the realities and pains of the people. How do we address this? Whenever they come to us once every 4 years, giving us 30,000, 2,000, 1,000, we must demand more. And our electoral system has to be reformed and reinforced.
Right.
Nobody
Right.
has a quarrel with anybody who wins an election if everybody feels the process is fair. I mean, I just join every other Nigerian in mourning those we have lost,
Mm,
children, pregnant women, and more.
indeed, indeed. Okay, before we actually leave this, I want to look at things from another perspective. Elaborate on something that you mentioned in terms of the individuals in question. Now, we know that we have a leadership problem. We know that these things tend to be cause and effect. People are hungry, they're desperate, hence what tends to happen. But someone said something on social media that I saw, and I began to think that when you talk about Nigerians, usually there's a lot of anyhowness in the way that a number of people tend to do things. For example, when it's time to queue for something, it's rowdy. To catch a bus, it's rowdy. To queue for fuel, it's rowdy. We always try everything, just always rowdy, rowdy, rowdy. Now, can we bring that into this particular situation and also ask the question that if the economic realities of people were different, would we see a reduction in these sort of desperate measures to and grab some more?
Remember, I said initially that there is the behavioral pattern, the gra, the anyhowness, as you put it, that very technical word, anyhowness of some of us at different circumstances. But sometimes anyhowness is it stems from the behavior of some of the people who are in charge of these things. There's a video going
Mm.
viral right now, people trying to board one flight because 2, 3 flights had been cancelled before. These are people who have paid hundreds of thousands. So if you see how they were behaving, in fact, entering Moloe is more dignified.
I saw the
So,
video. Ridiculous.
so I mean, if your flight has flown as expected, you wouldn't have that behavior. So in these cases, yes, there is the element of people's behavior. I'm not denying that, but I'm saying it also stems from a lack of trust. If you stay in one place, sometimes it seems as if things will fly over your head. So people get agitated, they get desperate. All we are saying is there have to be improvements both in the way we behave, the way these things are organized, and ultimately in the overall economic situation. People are in financial and nutritional distress, no matter what the next story about the budget seeks to say.
Talking about things flying over your head, on a lighter note, if you've been to a Lagos party at any point, you're sitting on a table and you see food just flying from one table to another, literally over your head, and nothing is coming your way, you
As
would
if you
understand.
offended the waiters.
You understand the feeling, and then you find out that eventually most of those tables, some of the people, the occupants, they have greased the palms of the waiters. So
Somehow.
yes,
This is what leads to lack of trust.
that is what tends to actually happen. Let's take a very quick break right now. When we come back in, we'll then focus on our next story coming out of the Vanguard. And it's talking about what Ibi was talking about. Sarah coming out to talk about the presidency cutting down on the budget for travels, meals, and much more. Keep it tuned to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1.
It's
Nine
insane.
point four billion naira.
Wait, how much is the total budget again?
Hmm.
It's 49 trillion, Abby.
Yeah, I think so.
Trillion,
45,
okay.
49? I think so.
It's like 50 trillion. And it's trillion, not billion. Because I'm trying to say, surely nine
Yes, trillion.
cannot be it cannot be 9.4 when the whole thing is 49 for food. But you never know these people. So, well, we'll go through them. We'll go through the stories fast. This for me was like the biggest story because of
It
the
was.
horrible, situation. I can go through the rest fairly fast.
Okay. All right. Welcome back into Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station. On a Money making Mondays 45 minutes past 7 a.m. Ayokunmi here. And of course, AB still joining us from the North Pole this morning, complete in Christmas gear. Yes, indeed. You can share your thoughts with us on WhatsApp on 0809 Also, join us on YouTube. Drop your comments at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And yes, look at our Santa Claus for the morning. AB, complete in shirt and hat as well. All right, welcome back, AB, to the conversation. Great having
Thank
you
you.
for. Let's head into the Vanguard real quick and talk about SERAP. That's the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. Now, they have urged Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, to cut the proposed budget of 9.4 billion naira on travels, refreshment and meals, and foodstuff and catering for the presidency, and the proposed 344.85 billion naira for the lawmakers, and to use the savings to address the budget deficit. I mean, huge numbers here. And of course, there would be, should I say, justifications made for why these numbers are there, this and that. But you know what, AB? Let me let you take it from here.
Listen, 9.4 billion for travel, refreshment, meals, food catering is almost 1 billion naira each month. Do you? I don't think we quite understand Almost one, because 12 over 9.4 is bordering on 1 billion naira. So you're telling me that it is the priority of those in governance and office to allocate almost 1 billion naira every month to the presidency for these things. And then we're talking about 344 billion NAS budget for roughly 360 people in the lower house and 100 or how many in the upper house. So 400 and something people are getting nearly 1 billion also per head. Do you understand why I say these people are completely detached from the realities of ordinary people? Serap is saying very reasonably, look at that. Let me ask you, Ayo, what do you think 1 billion naira worth of food will look like? That it cannot be eaten over a year in president. What are they doing there? Is it that they had no other sources of food? 1 billion naira worth of food could actually be spent for the whole year, but they're spending nearly 10 billion in the presidency. And then 344, almost 345 billion for the national. So I just assert without any doubt in my heart that these people and this is before the Senate has looked at it. By the time they took it, things may happen. So this is a budget of total lack of care for the ordinary Nigerian. That is all I see in it. Because the things that are supposed to go for healthcare, education, the famous agriculture, I don't know that they are really that high. But even if they are, you can always do more. I feel that the Nigerian National Assembly is the smallest set of most overpaid people who do the least work for the largest population on African continent. It's a waste, both at the presidency and at the state level. It's a pity. Serap, good job. I doubt that they'll be listened to. In fact, I expect that this to be tweaked upwards by the time we're done with this budget analysis process.
Also, AB, in this particular story, Sarah also urged Mr. Akpabio and Mr. Abbas to invite the heads of the alleged corrupt ministries, departments, and agencies to explain the whereabouts of the missing billions of naira of public funds, as documented in the recently released 2021 audited reports by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. I remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about this, where the story said that the heads of these MDAs were not showing up at the behest of the Senate and so on and so forth. We actually talked about this at some point right here on Freshly Pressed as well. Now, it's taking Sarah to bring this up again, that this particular issue should be looked into. I mean,
I,
how shameful is it that it needs Sarah to be bringing this up once again?
I think it just indicates that the Senate and the National Assembly know that in the eyes of the Nigerian people, apart from the waste of money that goes to them, they are largely irrelevant because I see no reason why the National Assembly should summon you and you have the nerve, the guts not to appear. It is inconceivable to me. But if there's no consequence, then they can do it and get away with it. Look at Serap, as usual, hitting all the right notes. But these people in office, as long as they're 344.45 billion approved, they don't care. They won't care. They won't call them because let me just say they won't call them because that is not the priority. The priority now, they're going to renew all their vehicles, they're going to renew assorted allowances, they're going to get more clothes, more newspapers, which many of them may not even be capable of reading, etc. That is what their priority. They are venal, they are vapid, they are I feel that they are not doing the people's job.
All right, let's head into The Guardian and talk about Zamfara State, where the federal government of Nigeria on Sunday, that's yesterday, officially lifted the ban on mining exploration in the state. 5 years after a region known for its vast mineral resources and history of artisanal mining was banned from mining activities. Now, this decision comes after a protracted period of restriction imposed to address the nexus between illegal mining activities and escalating insecurity in the state. Of course, we know Zamfara's mineral wealth, particularly in gold. It's been a blessing, or it should be a blessing, but unfortunately, it has been quite the challenge in the last couple of years, looking at the high level of insecurity in the state.
So here's the question. They are removing the ban after an attempt to address this nexus. Has it been addressed? Number one. Number two, when this mineral wealth is properly extracted, will it also, like the Niger Delta oil, contribute to the national budget? The story says it will, but let's see how that will go. But ultimately, bans, in my view, are an expression of the least intelligent approaches to anything. Instead of banning something, you should put some controls over it. But, in the former administration, we just banned because we could. I mean, that was one of the favorite things. You lock the border, you ban this, you ban that. Just an indication of lack of intelligence. Now, we are going to see whether, listen, those minerals are valuable. They could be valuable for the people of Zamfara. There's a book called the Book of States. Every state in Nigeria has what it can, exploit and trade in and get wealth. We shouldn't have a situation where states like Zamfara are being kept down fundamentally because of federal government policies. I'm hoping that this will now yield positives for the people of Zamfara, but the security has to be looked into. There's been a lot of violence that's been around those areas to cover up some of this illegal mining activity. We need our security forces to be beyond on top of the matter. They need to flush out all negative parties and make sure that those legitimate people are able to mine safely and contribute to the national purse.
Interesting thoughts there, AB. Now, still on this story, it further says, I mean, this is Daily Alake still speaking here. I mean, on the recent controversy surrounding the Memorandum of Understanding with France, Alake reaffirmed the federal government's position that the agreement does not imply Nigeria is relinquishing control over its mineral resources or entering into any military pact with France. This actually is interesting because we all know France's history with its territories within Africa, the Francophone countries, and the sort of
Exactly.
plundering that has been going on. Now, putting France and natural resources in the same sentence, I don't know what to make of that.
I'll say when somebody is speaking, when nobody asked you, he knows something that we don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, until we see the fine print, I'm taking that with a pinch of salt. I don't know what this newfound romance with France is. When everybody is kicking them out, I don't know why we are romancing with them. I have no problem with having good diplomatic relations with all countries, but they should be dined with the longest possible spoon.
The longest possible spoon. I like that one. Let me do a couple of messages before we get into our next story here. Daniel from Festac says the loss of lives due to stampedes is sad. As much as we want to blame the organizers and the government, we should not ignore the fact that the average Nigerian is unruly and greedy in equal measure. This same week, we saw Nigerians stampeding to board a plane. Are those Nigerians also poor? That our leaders are bad in setting good examples doesn't mean we descend into chaos. And let me see here. Francis from what just says, my heart goes out to the families of the people that died from the stampedes, but typical Nigerians are so impatient and so anyhow at times of not following rules and order and procedure. Now, the good-hearted are bearing the brunt of something that could have been avoided for real. Eddie Murphy says, AB, you forgot to mention the cost of transportation. It will cost philanthropists so much fuel money to go from house to house to distribute the palliatives going by the current fuel price, even if there's an organized address system in the country.
Cheaper than lost lives.
Well, I mean, since you put it that way. Okay, let me see here. Nathan Njoku from Kirikiri Town says, things are insufficient, hence the anyhowness. From buses on the road to food and foodstuff, this government is culpable along with the organizers. And let me just take one more before we get back into the stories really quickly here. Jerry says this government should absolve the blame in all of these and apologize. Do you mean we should absolve or should take the blame? Is that what you mean? In all of these and apologize to Nigeria and Nigerians if they want to be seen as responsible. Maybe they're trying their best, but their best is just not yielding any good results. The organizers of the event, which wasn't their first, by the way, were overwhelmed at the crowd that trooped in. It's a national embarrassment for people to be scrambling and dying in a bid to getting a piece of bread to eat in a country where our politicians are living larger than life. All right. Thanks for the thoughts. I'll take more messages, but let's get back into the stories this morning. Heading into the Vanguard, let's talk about the coastal road. The Minister of Works, Engineer David Umahi, has hinted at a possible upward review of the cost of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, which is currently estimated at 15 trillion naira. Now, the additional funds are expected to cover tree planting, the installation of CCTV cameras, and other features designed to enhance the socio-economic value of the project. Now, I'm not an engineer or anything, AB, and I'm not a professional project manager, but I want to believe that these are things that should have been thought about before this project was undertaken. I mean, CCTV cameras and whatnot.
Beyond that, I hear that thinking of reducing the number of lanes of the road. I want to say this right here for everybody. This project is completely not a priority. Again, in a country where people are barely surviving, there is no reason to have started this project, especially when the current east-west road, which literally runs parallel to this route, has been under construction for 18 years or more and is not yet complete. If you even wanted to add an alternative route and you said you're doing a railway, I could have seen some sense in it. But to do another road when you have not done the first road, and then you're now altering the project when it has barely gone, as far as I'm concerned, by the time it passes Dangote refinery, two Okadas may not be able to pass each other in opposite directions. That project is a misplaced priority. I'm not saying it's not a good project one day, but you have not connected Itakpe and Abuja. You have not connected Warri and Port Harcourt with rail. You have not connected assorted places that could actually ease people's transportation. And you're starting one highfalutin road and now putting CCTVs that are going to be solar controlled. What is the priority? By the time you're trying to build this road over the Niger Delta areas, do you know the cost of that road? They haven't started yet. Yet they came with fanfare, demolished all sorts of things. I will say this, and I'm not stuttering. That road is pointless at this juncture. They could have done much better projects or improved what exists before making sure that the current east-west road was perfectly functional. Then if you have extra time and effort and money, you can start this. So telling me now you are already varying the scope as early as this, reducing the width of the lanes, adding new plants and trees and everything, all these are not bad, but it is a wrong priority. I did not stutter.
Okay, maybe real quick before we round up this morning. Now, looking at where we are in terms of what they're doing on this road. Now, it could be said to be a long-term project. I mean, something that will take long. Let's start now and then work on that. But would this have been less of an issue if all these other roads and all these other things you've mentioned were going on at the same time?
Listen, prioritizing is part of project. When you have a portfolio, Nigeria is a portfolio of projects. Prioritizing them, if you have X amount of resources, you should put it into the ones that have already gone far enough. There is nothing as bad as 80% of zero. If nothing is done, you have not achieved. How about you reach 100% of one? Then you find yourself at 5% of the other, rather than having 2% of one, like this coastal highway, and 40% of another. What's the point? Everywhere you have not achieved any particular thing. Again, that literal route parallel to it is the east-west road. There is no good reason I can see why you start a brand new road parallel to one that is not completed. If anything, you should have completed the one that exists.
All right, let's do some messages here. Gilbert Musa says, on the recent deaths recorded across at least 3 states when palliative distribution was involved, AB said it all. He particularly pointed to a label address system. The reason NIPOST, among other relevant distribution agencies, should be upgraded and made effective. Even our PVCs for elections can be properly distributed with addresses of registered voters. Who else is talking to us here? Let me see. This is Coyote from Lagos Island. He says police arrested a TikToker for inciting violence on the Nigerian police, and immediately police tracked the guy and arrested him. Every day, Nigerians are being kidnapped by bandits, terrorists, and kidnappers, and even make videos of their proceeds. Kidnapping hasn't stopped. The federal might and intelligence gathering used in arresting seeking should also be used to arrest bandits and terrorist kidnappers. And government officials stealing our money, they should leave the boy alone. I mean, we've
There you
seen this
go.
play out at different times. The kidnappers and co. They never seem to be found, but anyone who has a dissenting voice is
There's
picked up
always intelligence in
as soon as
advance.
possible. Tony from Marine Beach says the high rates and depth of poverty is evidenced in all these events playing out lately. We saw how people risked their lives to scoop fuel from falling trucks, and many died in the process. That was insanity. I'm sorry. That was complete insanity. If another truck falls in the same location, those who escaped the first death will dare to scoop again. The desperation, it's like it's now or never. I get these palliatives or we may die. It has never been like this before. The message is simple: food, food, food. Government should get more involved in agriculture and food production to save the situation.
And the
Uh,
irony, every time for every problem we have in Nigeria, the president proposes rice. How far? Where is this rice? No lights, bags of rice. No
Joseph
road,
Mayer says,
bags of rice.
I'm in real pains how some selfish and psychophant Nigerians downplay the current height of hunger in the land. Many go days without food. So just as the Senate president said months ago, that whenever one sees food, they should approach the place for it. Really, it really hurts. It's really heart rendering how we got here, yet the government isn't bothered with any form of alleviation. Um, Michael says, Information Minister has been disappointed with the usual insensitivity and quick to absolve the leadership of any guilt and responsibilities. Are we now killing our young, using their deaths to score cheap political points? Some of those parents must have voted APC into power. Imagine how they feel now in the same environment. This is a national disaster. And we need to call it a morning. Time has absolutely flown by. Thank you so much for all the messages. We appreciate you always keeping it tuned. And thank you so much, AB, for joining us from the North Pole this Monday morning.
My brother, my wonderful listeners, Merry Christmas in advance for those of us who good fortune has let to still be alive since we didn't run for palliatives. And let's just try and take it easy. This Christmas will come, and like all the ones past, it will go. We will see more Christmases. Let's reduce whatever level of desperation we may be feeling. God bless you all. Merry Christmas in advance. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Have a wonderful week ahead to you too, AB, and Merry Christmas in advance. Once again, thank you for keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Do not go anywhere. We'll get to talk sports at 8:15 in the locker room. Tega will be in for all the banter and so much more. All right, and it's a wrap.